One of the most trite things that people say when a nice-looking anime comes along is that it looks just like a Studio Ghibli movie, or just like a Miyazaki movie, which, regardless of the merits of the work in question, is usually a questionable comparison. Miyazaki's movies don't just look pretty in some generic sense. There's always that sort of dreamlike tone, a particular kind of realist character design and animation, and wait a minute, these aren't clips from a Ghibli film. This is Nasu by Studio Madhouse. Nasu, A Summer in Andalusia, and Nasu, A Migratory Bird with a Suitcase, are two short movies about bicycle racing. And if you show a clip to a random person without context, they will probably ask which Miyazaki film it's from. If you make some particularly convincing noises and gestures, you might even fool someone who should know better.
Something Lupin the Third, something joint-produced OVA.
Better writers than I have tried and failed to describe what exactly is the Studio Ghibli magic. I'm just gonna take a page from American jurisprudence and say, like pornography, you know it when you see it. The art and character design of Nasu is so often a dead ringer, as is the attention to detail in the production and character animation. A discerning eye will detect that the color direction and shading of some scenes is more in the Madhouse style than anything else. Despite the freckles, I'd say the Ghibli resemblance in Nasu is often more than skin deep. At first blush, Pepe Benengeli is an implacably chipper, Lupinish character, but Summer in Andalusia is ultimately about how he fled his incredibly picturesque hometown, his incredibly communal family who are holding such a lovely wedding as the race goes on, and how, despite the resentment Pepe shows them, his family still loves him all the same, even as he recites his team's advertising patter rather than give them any credit. Family, forgiveness, delicious food, plucky ladies, it's all there. The European setting of this first movie especially smells strongly of the flavor of special interest Miyazaki pours into his work. This all makes a bit more sense if you look at the credits of the director, Kitaro Kosaka. Opening his filmography is one of those moments when you find that someone you'd never heard of seems to be credited on approximately every anime ever made. He was a key animator on some absolutely legendary cuts, and apparently AD on even more. But germane to the topic at hand, you'll notice that he's credited on Nausicaa, The Boy and the Heron, and many of the Studio Ghibli productions in between. The two Nasu movies are essentially his only direction and writing credits, but I think they show he's been taking careful notes his whole career. But this probably doesn't answer the question you're asking. Is Nasu Naisu? If much of what you're coming to an anime movie for is just beautiful art and good vibrations, then these movies probably have that box ticked. This is really that class of production value you only get from the best anime, if only for 40 or 50 minutes. As a digitally painted anime from 2003, Summer in Andalusia exhibits the common flubs of those early digital productions, like art being unevenly mastered in too low a resolution. And Migratory Bird with a Suitcase has a couple of shaky mixed media effects. But overall, the experience is clean, clear, and wholesome, if you're okay with seeing a lot of the main character's muscular ass. Though that is the thing. At the end of the day, Nasu is a sports anime. Even as a non-sports enjoyer, I suspect that sports is the genre with the most hidden kino potential, and I am an occasional bicycle commuter, the bane of car sales. But white as I am, I have never really watched the Tour de France or the like, never mind been a road bike racist myself. The sport is rendered beautifully here. It's a great excuse to do lots of detailed landscapes and mechanical animation. There is a best effort to make it engaging to a non-fan. But if you're really just looking for thrills, there's only so much they can artistically do with what is ultimately a very deliberate, strategic kind of racing. One of my favorite moments is from Migratory Bird, when the Sigma male favorite competitor suddenly develops a demonic aura and just rockets ahead of the pack. I won't spoil what happens next, but there's something about this that might have tweaked you the wrong way. Anyone else get a weird feeling during that opening scene of The Boy and the Heron, when the city is ablaze? I realized after watching that it's because it's the first notable instance of a Miyazaki movie doing anything expressionistic with its visuals. His films have always maintained a sort of diegetic realism. His worlds are consistently rendered in a grounded manner, the way the characters might see it, even in the midst of dreams and nightmares. Before that scene in The Boy and the Heron, Miyazaki films never indulged in model departures or style shifts that are just for the benefit of the audience, the way the Summer in Andalusia animates the final meters of the race. In fact, Miyazaki has gone on record denouncing that kind of stylistic flourish. I love expressionistic animation, at least when it's actually creative and not a genre obligation. And based on the kinds of anime that succeed, I don't think that's an unpopular take, even among people who see themselves as having a refined taste in animation. I think if your average Ghibli enjoyer saw what Miyazaki says about expressionism, but in a tweet from some dude using a Roman statue as a profile pic, they would roast him as the sort of guy who thinks that the only true art is realistic renderings of naked women. It's less that I disagree with Miyazaki's takes, because he is an undeniable legend who is entitled to his opinion, and more that people seem to depict the man as a cipher of a nice old grandpa who is sugar and spice and everything nice, like his movies. When I think the reality is that Miyazaki is an old man full of piss and vinegar and complicated opinions which probably don't universally flatter your own. So, maybe, instead of founding one's impression of Nasu based on how it compares to someone else's work, we should talk about the movies on their own merits. In any context, this is some real crisp anime. Beautiful, well-written, and charming. People might find their way to it based on a family resemblance, but they might keep watching for a quality that is all its own.